Welcome to Nerd Wars, and you guessed it, Amber Turd's Mara could have been killed twice. They had two opportunities to get rid of her. Aquaman 2, I give it a 4.5 out of 10. For context, I gave The Marvels a 3 out of 10, and I gave Napoleon a very generous 4.5 out of 10. So it's about Napoleon good, and by that I mean not good, but not absolutely horrendous like The Marvels. To prepare for this masterpiece, I went ahead and rewatched Aquaman 1, which I give about a 5.5. With Aquaman 1, the intro was amazing. The first 10 to 15 minutes is so good with the mom and the dad. Great music, really good transitions, excellent storytelling, and then they go down into the ocean in the submarine. It's
bathroom problems, if you will.
The ending was also really good when the mom and dad meet at the end of the pier, actual chills. And that's after me playing Vampire Survivors on my Switch the whole time while I watched. By far, the mother and father stuff were the best part of Aquaman 1. They didn't have any of that in Aquaman 2. The mother and father stuff was Aquaman and old Amber Turd.
That's disgusting.
In Aquaman 1, there's pretty good camera work. I really enjoyed a lot of the transitions, but it seems like they were all at the beginning or all at the end. In the middle is had pretty good CGI too. Honestly, I think better CGI than Aquaman 2. And the big battle at the end, genuinely so good. And I was saying Aquaman 1 and 2, awesome creatures. And the part where they're looking for the trench and they're in the boat, nighttime, and all the trench baddies start climbing on the boat, and there's just so many. They get that flare out, they have to dive down. All the light is just a flare, and then just thousands of the bad guys. Really cool designs too, just chasing them down as the music gets quieter, and you're like, oh no, the flare's running out. They have to run, and they just barely make it to the end. Really good part. I liked it a lot. Yeah, they don't have any of that in Aquaman 2. And basically everything else with Aquaman 1, way too much Amber Turd. And Aquaman 2 had pretty similar problems, even though they did take Turd out of quite a bit of it.
Bathroom issues in your bed.
Also, there's no giant battle. There's quite a few fight scenes, but no giant battles, which was by far the best part of Aquaman 1. So long story short, it's a lot like Aquaman 1, but 1 point less in score. So Aquaman 2 story, pretty weak. Coherent, but pretty weak. There are also quite a few pitiful excuses for their plot holes. The story of the Lost Kingdom was pretty good. Manta stuff, I did not think he was a good character, 1 or 2. But the worst part about the story is I can't exactly say climate something or global something. I don't really feel like getting a Wikipedia blurb under this freaking Aquaman 2 review. So we're just going to refer to it as planet heating. And there was a lot of planet heating propaganda. It was actually the main part of the story.
Disgusting.
Characters. Well, Arthur, Mara, and Manta were all pretty boring. Not compelling at all. His brother Orm, though, honestly, the best character. I actually liked Aquaman all right in the first one. Jason Momoa did a pretty good job. This one, I like the villain from the first one more in this movie than the hero. That happens, you might have goofed up as a writer.
Listen, we f***ed up.
Acting. As I said, Momoa didn't do nearly as good a job, but honestly, that's probably the writer's fault. He had pretty good delivery, presence, and all that. The lines they didn't really land. Amber Turd, of course, terrible acting. Is she even capable of acting? But thankfully, it was way less noticeable on account of her being in it way less.
Happened in bed, too.
And Manta was actually a little bit better this time because he was actually a character, whereas in the first one, they kind of just threw him in there for some reason. Length, under 2 hours. There's a little under 2 hours. Perfect. Went by quick. I give it a 4.5, but still ended up being pretty good on the time. Wasn't bored. So credit there. Directing, pretty good. When it came to the camera work and transitions that were only in the very beginning and the end. Just needed to do more of that in the middle there, James Wan. Writing, corny, and not in a good way. Definitely worse than Aquaman 1. Cinematography, quite a few good shots. Not nearly as pretty to look at as the first one, but definitely a few decent shots. Music and sound effects. Decent music. Did a lot of the classic rock like the first one. But there wasn't really anything that got me going. The sound effects though were pretty good. All the lasers, tridents hitting each other. Sound effects hit. Action. Good enough to keep you interested, but nothing spectacular like in Aquaman 1. Like in the big battle when the giant Kraken monster comes out and there's lava going everywhere and everyone's shooting there. And it's so good. You don't really get any of those kind of moments in this one. Drama. A little bit. The relationship between the brothers, probably the best part of the movie as far as character stuff goes. Special effects, good, but some bad CGI faces at times. Noticed it a lot more than I did in Aquaman 1. Costumes and sets, quite a bit of style. Not quite as good as Aquaman 1, but still pretty fun to look at. Man, his henchman had some pretty good suits, and he had a really cool jetpack on his back. Arthur was still just rocking the classic costume, while Mera was still rocking the extreme cleavage, the only positive about Amber Turd and her character. Escapism. I didn't super care for the characters, so I didn't get pulled in quite as much as I could, but it's an interesting world. It's pretty fun. Definitely some escapism. Would I recommend it to my boomer parents? No. It's also not for kids. There's way too much cursing. But other than that, it'd be pretty fine for kids. Or at least, like, young teens. You just gotta have Aquaman curse a bunch. Like, no reason. Theater versus streaming. Just watch it when it's out on Max in like a month and a half. Final score. Still, 4.5. So there's the quick review. Now I'm gonna get balls deep. So if you're still thinking about maybe seeing this at some point, now's the time to go. If you just want to hear about just how bad it is and why, here we go. I saw about 20 or so people in the theater. Quite a few more than the Marvels, that's for sure.
Black girl magic!
And I'm pretty certain the movie was sponsored by Guinness Beer. Intro, Aquaman's fighting a bunch of white pirates on a cargo ship. So he's telling his baby boy the story, and he's using action figures, and he's like making them all hit each other and stuff. Actually, pretty creative. I liked it. Decent way of starting and telling a little bit of backstory from what happened in Aquaman 1. But the beginning of Aquaman 1, that first 10 minutes is actually like a genuinely good movie. Yeah, they didn't have this. Could have been worse though. Quote, next thing you know, we're getting married and had a kid. Arthur Jr. and Amber Turd.
Bathroom problems, if you will.
Oh yeah, I've got a new job as King of Atlantis. But it turns out he's not enjoying being the king, because it turns out you just get to listen to a bunch of boring arguments about stuff he doesn't care about. So he actually falls asleep on the throne, and Mera wakes him up. So he stands up and starts like clapping and cheering, being Aquaman. So Aquaman doesn't just get baby pee in his face once, but twice. The second time because he dodges it, but Mera uses her water magic to hit him in the face with pee.
Bathroom problems, if you will.
The bed pooper made him get pee in his face. Have fun with that in the comments. And it turns out Arthur Jr. can talk to fish too. It's kind of cute. Like Aquaman 1, some excellent transitions in the beginning. They got me all excited, but like Aquaman 1 is just in the beginning and end. Then we cut to Black Manta, who's in Antarctica looking for Atlantis and Antarctica for some reason. He's got a big scar across his face, even though his whole head absolutely should have just been vaporized inside that helmet in Aquaman 1. And when it gets wrapped around and then hits him in the face and then his head explodes, literally blows up in his face. Probably the funniest moment. And he like tumbles down the rock. Definitely should have melted his head. But no, he's just got like a scar across his face. Okay, sure. So the scientists are out there in Antarctica on the ice, and oh no, there's some seismic activity. And then the two scientists fall through the ice. They discover what's causing the problem. A tentacle monster. After that, Black Manta comes down, he sees what's going on, and he says, quote, thank God for he says, thank God for planet heating. Am I right, fellow polluters? I mean, I knew this crap was coming. I'd seen the interview with Jason Momoa where he literally told everyone the ending of this movie.
And a lot of it has to deal with, me talking to the UN, expediting what's going to be happening with the melting ice caps.
You are really dumb, for real.
Black Man and his team go under the ice, and then they dive underwater, and they find a lost city under there. And as expected, tentacle monster attacks. Manta gets knocked down to the bottom, and he finds the black trident, which really should not have just been lying down there. When we find out what actually happens later, it should not have just been laying there. So he puts the broken pieces together, and it just works. Maybe we should put that black trident somewhere, not just laying there. A bunch of green energy goes through, and he has a vision. He sees Aquaman and everyone laying there dead at his feet. And most importantly, Amber Turd. But sadly, it's just a vision.
It's still real to me, damn it!
And the evil king tells him he'll give him the power to defeat Aquaman, which he really wants to do because Aquaman let his horrible pirate dad die through his dad's completely own fault.
I've made a huge mistake.
5 months later, rising temperatures. Oh no, planet heating. Amber Turd finally sadly talks after about 15 minutes. Turns out still a terrible actress. Then we get the Council of Atlantis, who likes to ruin all of Aquaman's fun with a bunch of Karens. And they're worried about the outbreaks. The outbreaks, very vague outbreaks. Turns out they killed Willem Dafoe. So presumably, these were scheduling conflict outbreaks caused by planet heating. Don't ever mention the outbreaks ever again. They literally just made up the outbreaks as the excuse for why Willem Dafoe's not in it. Aquaman wants to reveal Atlantis to the world so we can work together and solve planet heating. The council says they prefer to eradicate the surface rather than coexist based. And we're back to the lighthouse. He's drinking Guinness with his dad. Now that he has some experience being a dad, he tells his dad, "You're the real superhero." It was actually a really nice moment, followed by cheers to single parents. Single parents, the easiest way to screw up your child's life. Let's cheer to that. So his dad, Boba Fett, tells him, sometimes not giving up is the most heroic thing you can do. Man, we really needed more of his dad. I really liked his dad in the first one. The Black Manta also found a bunch of old ships down there in Antarctica. No idea how he got them out of there. Who knows? But we find out they're powered by orichalcum. Yes, World of Warcraft players, that orichalcum. And some of this is told by the scientist taking notes on a tape recorder. It's definitely a tell don't show situation, but a somewhat creative way to do it at least. Which is really all we're asking for. So a few of them get out in some pretty darn cool squid submarine robot mech things. They've got about 15 minutes to get in and out. Wow, they're about to do a heist? Okay, I'm getting a little more excited. All right, let's do a heist. They're at the orichalcum storage vault, loading up their ship, but then the vault doors slam shut. Oh no! And that's when I realized there's a ton of women running this submarine.
Put a chicken in, make her gay!
Pirates. Freaking pirates. Not to sound like Tim Pool, but sorry, there shouldn't be any women in a pirate crew.
You run up and punch a random guy, and then he just clocks you in the face one time. You go down wasted. You lose all your HP instantly, and then you wake up outside the hospital.
But instead, it's ran by a nameless Asianish Latino woman who absolutely should not be in charge of anything. She's clearly not strong. She doesn't show that she's like smart or doesn't show any reason for why she's somehow in charge other than DEI. As they're escaping with the orichalcum, they get to one of the bridges that's a portal to Atlantis. You know, the one with the big turret guns that keep everything out. No one could ever get by those. So the sub uses their super duper secret sonic cannon, which is way more OP than it should be. Really, it's just an excuse for why Aquaman didn't just fudge them all up immediately. So they use the sonic gun on the turret guy, and the turret guy passes out and hits the accelerator, I guess, and he just starts blasting people waiting in the queue.
I started blasting. Bang!
But I think a lot of them waiting in the line are probably British because they just kept queuing. We finally get Nicole Kidman, who I really liked in the first one, and Amber Turd team up. Amber Turd, the worst part of both movies. And they're fighting on some red armored sharks. Actually pretty cool. I gotta give credit where it's due. The first one and second one, lots of cool creature designs. They did a really good job with that. Credit where it's due. And then as they're going, he slips into a Gulf Stream, kind of like an underwater highway. Mara manages to stop him, but gets shot with his laser eyes. He's about to finish her off when, sadly, Arthur stops him for some reason. Manta and Aquaman fight. Barely. So Manta derails the Atlantis equivalent to a subway train and uses that as a chance to escape. It's the coolest moment of the trailer, but it was pretty quick and I was really hoping for more. After stopping that, Aquaman chases after them but gets hit with the sonic cannon and just passes out. Because sound makes their nervous system shut down. Don't ask. So the Council of Atlantis tries to impeach Aquaman for being a bad leader. Not really being particularly present, considering he lives in the lighthouse, not even in Atlantis. And he just allowed a breach of the Capitol for the first time in a million years. Honestly, I'm a little bit with the council here. And then Mara's laying there, her neck is just all fudged up. She closes her eyes for a moment, and I think just briefly,
Dear tiny infant Jesus,
we're gonna have an Anakin's mom moment where she just suddenly is gone, but no. Objectively, the movie would have been way better if she'd been killed off at that moment.
Amen.
Amen.
Perfect time to do it. She didn't really do anything later that anyone else couldn't have just done instead. Would have been great motivation, add a lot more drama and emotion, but no, we gotta keep Amber Turd around, the worst part of the two movies.
Why are you the way that you are?
So as it turns out, orichalcum emits greenhouse gases. The Atlanteans had almost destroyed themselves already when they used it before, but they stopped because they're just so wise. The Manta's using the orichalcum, which is clearly an analogy for oil and nuclear waste, to heat up the planet to melt the ice that's holding the last kingdom imprisoned. So they go full AOC and say, Global climate meltdown is imminent.
The world is going to end in 12 years.
So how are they going to stop Manta? I know who could help us, but you won't like it. They're going to break his brother Orm, the villain from Aquaman 1, out of prison because he might, maybe, possibly know where to find Manta. Maybe.
No.
I mean, he hired him in the first one, so he's been in prison for a little while, but he probably knows where Manta's at, or he can find out where he's at.
Sure, Jan.
I mean, you're just the king of Atlantis. There's probably no one else who could possibly help you figure that one out. But that's the plan. And having open communications is too risky, so they send an octopus with him. Topo the cephalopod, who literally gets enough screen time to be considered, I'd say, a side character. He can also turn invisible.
I'm sure I'm invisible.
Hi, Drax.
Coincidentally, Aquaman gets handed the tiniest little suit to wear. Actually, pretty funny moment. But that suit also lets him turn invisible. The prison is in a desert, which is conveniently located right next to the ocean.
You're an imbecile.
So the baddies, who are actually kind of, I guess, the goodies, look like some crazy necromancer zombie dudes. Once again, credit where it's due, really cool creature design. And they don't drink water now, they drink blood. More of these guys, please. They also have some really cool mounts that they use. They're basically giant zombie centipede monster looking bros with like 8 legs. Maybe 10. I tried to count. I couldn't. So they use those to break out of the prison and get up to the desert. Orm's still super weak. Looks like a skeleton because he hasn't had any water. Thankfully though, he was in prison right next to the ocean.
What?
So he crawls, he's almost there, but he gets captured until the tide rolls over him and instantly he's super jacked and kicks their butt. I really hope it's CGI because bro was jacked. If he did that much work for 10 seconds, oh my gosh. Imagine his wife was happy about it, but that would have probably been a lot of work for 10 seconds of abs. Then he goes right back into his suit. But he went from skeleton to super jacked just by having some water touch him. And that royal bloodline's something special.
Wow.
Aquaman says, "Good job, little brother, high five." He doesn't return it. Then here we get the quote, "tight butt."
Wow.
Then they go to Orm's contact as Matrix club music starts playing. Then it cuts to Manta's base, which is an ancient orichalcum factory. The scientist begins to question Manta. And then we go back to the sunken citadel, where the scum of the sea come to mingle. On the way there in the ship, the relationship between Orm and Arthur is actually really good. And I actually found myself liking Orm a lot more than Arthur. Even offers to turn himself back into the fish people when it's all over, because that's what would be best for Atlantis. At this point, I was like, let's just go make him king of Atlantis again. What's the worst that could... Oh, yeah. That's the first time we get the "don't call me brother" moment. Not a whole, oh, we're not brothers, and then, spoiler alert at the end, they're brothers again. That sort of stuff, best character stuff by far. Best writing by far. They get captured, which was actually the plan. And they get brought into what is straight up just the Atlantis version of the Star Wars cantina. They even have their version of the Twi'lek singer on the Galactic Star Cruiser, the one that made Neurotic break his monitor.
God, it's stupid. Oh, dude.
And then the leader is pretty much exactly Jabba the Hutt. Like, they don't even try to hide it. We have a decent fight scene, not the best, but decent. The highlight was the hammerhead sharks with automatic guns. They win and they get their info from Jabba the Hutt that Manta's probably at Devil's Deep, a volcano island with tons of green smoke pouring out of the top, like a smokestack / nuclear reactor. Green smoke, greenhouse gases, green smoke. So we cut to the island and Scientist Man finds Manta talking to himself in the mirror, but he's actually talking to the evil king in his head. Manta shuts the door on him. First of several times. No idea why Manta never killed the scientist. It really doesn't make any sense at all.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
The dude's helping him build the technology, but that's it. But he really mostly already has the technology. And if he just killed the scientist dude like he should have, they would have won. He would have gotten what he wanted.
Get what you deserve.
Cut to Orm and Arthur, and they're on the island making their way to the Bond villain volcano base, and Arthur starts talking about all the food he misses, like a slice of za. If I ever hear anyone genuinely non-ironically call pizza za, I will probably yell shame and start ringing a bell at him.
Shame.
Or how he really wants a greasy cheeseburger and he wants to wash it down with, you guessed it, a Guinness. But Orin's never really tried the food on the surface, so Arthur lectures him about how you've let your prejudices keep you from enjoying half the world. Then he tricks Orm into eating a cockroach. It's actually kind of funny. The loud kid in the theater made a bunch of noise about it. And again, this is not for kids. Way too much cursing. But then also at the same time, they put like bug eating in. They'll make kids go, gross. But then they also curse a bunch.
Why?
Arthur and Orm finally make it to the top of a ridge, and there's a great view of the jungle, waterfalls, and of course the evil volcano spewing out all the greenhouse gases that are literally green.
There's no far off galaxy coming to destroy us. There's no aliens from another place. It's really just the idea of us ruining our planet.
Then a giant butterfly comes by. Arthur asks, "Do you see that?" Orm replies, "That's not normal." First actual laugh of the movie for me. The best part of Aquaman 1 was the fish out of water / human in water type stuff, with of course the exception of Amber Turd eating the flower. Did I mention that she's the worst part of both movies? So they didn't get nearly as much of that in here. I really feel like they could have added a bit more. Turns out all those evil greenhouse gases are turning all the flora and fauna huge. Then they get chased by a bunch of giant grasshoppers. Again, Orm is running like he's Naruto, which is when we realize he doesn't know how to run correctly. He's never on land. He doesn't know how to run. Definitely the best moment of the movie. And then once he actually learns how to run, he starts outrunning Aquaman until they get to a cliff edge and we have the giant statue scene from the trailer. Here Orm actually uses an excellent slur. I'm a bit of a slur connoisseur.
You're a goddamn genius.
Got any more krill-brained ideas? Got them, krill. There's a big Atlantean statue on the cliff for some reason. And it says, "Kings build bridges." We got to hear that a bunch more. It never landed. It was cringe like every time.
True king builds bridges. Shut up, Meg.
So Arthur knocks it over, and as they're running across the bridge, he yells, "Mom says she loves you. Why are you telling me this now?" Because the writers suck, probably forgot the line and just forced it in there. And Aquaman's response is, "I'm tired of waiting for the right time." Yeah, the writers forgot. Cut to the scientist going into Manta's office. He grabs the trident and puts it together. So he gets the vision, and when he comes back, Manta is standing right behind him. So he finally kills him. No.
Why?
Instead, he tells the scientist his plan.
Are you retarded?
Now it's totally worth destroying the whole planet to get his vengeance for his pirate dad who shot Aquaman point blank with 2 grenades, the second one causing the flooding that killed him. Super weak motivation. So stupid.
Killing him is my reward.
What the is wrong with you?
And then Manta threatens the scientist instead of just killing him like he should have. He's literally possessed by an evil necromancer king, but he doesn't kill the guy that's clearly going to betray him. And then Arthur and Orm argue about what it takes to be king. And that sort of stuff is by far the best character stuff. Should have been more. They finally make it in the volcano lair and are just running through. They go up to guard. They say, "Hey, knock him unconscious." Run up.
Another one.
Next guard. "Hey, knock him unconscious."
And another one.
Honestly, kind of dumb. The security of this place, terrible. Then they cover up a plot hole by saying, "This place must have some kind of thermal shielding to hide from the human sensors." They don't show it or anything. It's clearly someone said, "Here's a plot hole." So they literally covered up a plot hole with thermal shielding.
This sucks, man.
They finally make it to the control room. The scientist comes in, threatens him, and then immediately surrenders and asks to be taken with him. He starts to explain Manta's plan that he just learned with an explosion. We get a fight scene with Arthur and Manta while Orm fights random Asian Latina woman who's in charge of things for some reason. She's in the squid sub mech robot thing. It's actually pretty cool. I enjoyed that stuff in the fight scene. And Orm does some Captain America shield bouncing type stuff. It didn't work.
Shooting it better than this.
Samanta's got a cool jetpack now. He's flying around. Pew, 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 pew. Then he gets hit in the face with a giant hook attached to a crane.
You can't keep getting away with it.
Then Orm defeats the Asian Tina. Then she gets exploded by Manta's lasers. I don't really understand why. He just blows her up. Yeah, I guess he's just like manting all over the place or something. It's manting time. Orm goes to fight Manta, underestimating him. He doesn't even have a suit on, but immediately gets punched out. But he grabs the black trident in the process and has the vision. Then gets fudged up by a Manta blast. Like, fudged up. And he's about to get killed when the Atlantean reinforcements arrive, shooting torpedoes at the volcano, causing it to collapse. Manta grapples onto the escaping sub. Aquaman chases after them, but gets hit with the super convenient sonic cannon.
He can't keep getting away with it!
And then sadly, Mara is back.
No! God! That idea is terrible.
I literally booed. I booed out loud.
No!
Can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Then we finally hear the lore about Necris, the Black City. Atlan, the original ruler of Atlantis, his brother was a bad guy.
Fun to do bad things.
So similar to how Atlan created the Golden Trident, his brother created the Black Trident and used it to transform himself and his people into monsters.
And he smokes with cigarettes.
Pretty cool looking monsters too, I must say. Then he went to war against Atlan but lost. So Atlan sealed them away with magic, and that's how they ended up frozen under the ice. So the planet heating alone isn't going to release the evil king. They also need the blood of Atlan, or his royal bloodline, to undo the ritual. So they need Arthur, Orm, or old Turd McGee. But Arthur realizes there's another. Arthur Jr., no! And of course, somehow Manta knows about his baby.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
And we get more planet heating propaganda. Then Manta appears at the lighthouse and stabs Aquaman's dad. I'm gonna leave you alive so he can watch you die. But of course he doesn't actually die. Manta, an absolute freaking genius.
You're a goddamn genius!
Arthur gets there and finds out his dad's dying. The baby's been kidnapped, so he lets out the weakest no scream I've ever heard. Especially after watching Godzilla -1, the scream in that. Yep. I just got like a quarter chill just thinking about it. Then back to the scientist. He yet again walks by Manta's office and sees Manta's kidnapped Arthur Jr. So Manta shuts the door on him and just lets him live so he can screw up all the plans.
One of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
I'm pretty sure at this point the scientist had already asked if he could leave because he didn't want to carry out the plan. Manta's like, yeah, it's cool. Well, I'm going to keep you around just so you can screw up the plan. So the scientist sends out the coordinates. If it weren't for that, Manta would have gotten what he wanted.
Who could ever have seen this coming?
And we're back to the lighthouse. Turns out Dad's fine, which honestly, good with me. I really like his character. And then we have a really good moment between the brothers and the mom. I got a half a chill on that one. Should have been way more of it. The brother stuff and then the mom, easily the best character stuff. Like all the other writing is pretty rough. That stuff, a lot of it was actually pretty decent. Of course, the sonic cannon is going to be a problem. How do we solve that? Quote, disrupt their disruptor. That's the plan. That's the plan that we get to hear. Disrupt the disruptors.
What the f does that even mean?
They're finally riding off to the final battle. Aquaman on a seahorse. We get more planet heating propaganda. More random Asian Tina in charge for some reason.
I believe I asked you to put a chick in this and make her gay.
Manta shoots a missile at the ice and everything starts breaking, releasing the monsters. And Arthur finally uses his talking to fish superpowers. And he gets the whales to surround the bad guy's sub, and they use their whale song to blow up the engine.
Go f yourself.
Somehow. And the sub starts to sink. And we finally get to Necris, the Lost Kingdom, the Black City. The crime rate must be terrible.
There are certain topics that are off limits to comedians.
Wrong.
So the bad guy's throne is about to melt, and they're going to use Arthur Jr. to undo the ritual. All will be lost. As they're rushing there, Orm and Dolph Lundgren are climbing up a tower. Dolph gets grabbed by the tentacle monster, and he asks Orm for help, despite him previously showing he didn't trust Orm, which is pretty fair. Orm just looks at him and ignores him. Oh no, he's evil! But he comes around the other side and saves Dolph.
What a twist!
More of that stuff. More of that sort of stuff, please. Could have actually gotten this up to like a 6 out of 10. The scientist gives Manta the baby to use for the ritual, but it's actually a bomb. Explosion. He grabs the baby and runs, but gets tasered.
Don't tase me, bro!
So the baby uses his fish power to call for Dad. The baby uses the fish power more than Aquaman in this movie. Finally, in this final fight scene, we go back to actually having some good camera work. Similar to the final fight in Aquaman 1, it's a lot of spinning around the fighters. Keeps things interesting. Actually pretty decent. They're all hitting their tridents together real fast. Actually kind of cool. Then Manta jetpacks around and gets Arthur on the ground, about to stab him, but instead decides to monologue.
Just do it!
Then Amber Turd rips a huge fart, which distracts Manta. So he throws the black trident at her, and it's an inch from her face. But sadly, Orm caught it for some reason, sadly. So fucking close. So Orm has the vision again, and the evil king tempts him. And it works. Turns his eyes green, and now the evil king is possessing him, causing Manta to lose his power. So Arthur grabs the black trident too. So the evil king's all swirling around him, trying to tempt them both. A surprisingly good moment between the brothers.
Good job.
Like I said, if they just done more of that, we easily could have gotten this to a 6. And this right here was probably the best character moment of them all. And Orm finally lets go of the spear. So Arthur throws it at the evil king, the evil trident that he created. He throws it at him.
Are you retarded?
Literally just hands it to him. So we get a super cool fight scene between the two? No.
Boo this man!
Arthur just nonchalantly picks up the gold trident, throws it, and it breaks through the black trident like a Robin Hood arrow. Big green explosion. This causes the floor to break and Manta falls into the crack and he's just barely holding on. So this time, unlike with Manta's dad, Aquaman offers to help him and reaches down. Manta says, F that and let's go.
It's gone. It's all gone.
Could have been an awesome moment. The closing of an arc that started at the very beginning of Aquaman 1. Could have been great. Good character stuff. No, it didn't hit at all.
Bagel.
So they escape the collapsing city and hop onto a piece of ice. Mera kisses the scientist on the head and says one last cringy, poorly acted line, and then we never ever have to hear her again.
You're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
They decide that Orm has made up for his past mistakes. So they'll pretend that he died in battle. Orm says, thank you, brother. And they do a handshake. It was pretty good. No chills, but pretty good. And he tells Arthur, the people of Atlantis are lucky to have you. They should have just cut Amber Turd out, added more character stuff between the brothers. Easily, we could have gotten to a 6. The brother stuff, the good fighting scenes, the overall story, that sort of stuff is why this was better than, say, The Marvels.
Black girl magic!
But finally, the ending. The world finds out about Atlantis. Aquaman is going to have Atlantis join the United Nations to fight planet heating.
You are fake news.
The exact thing Jason Momoa said in that interview. The ending of the movie.
He talking to the UN.
Aquaman gives a terrible speech. And it cuts to Orm finally about to try a cheeseburger, and then back to Aquaman saying we have to overcome our prejudices, guys. And finishes it all with, I am Aquaman. And then he steps back and goes, yeah, with all the enthusiasm of his, no. Yeah, it's supposed to kind of be like in Endgame, and Tony Stark says, I am Iron Man, then sacrifices himself in one of the best MCU moments. It's like that, but way worse.
You're the worst character ever, Charlie.
I know.
So we make it through the credits without leaving the theater, and we get to the secret ending, and something super special happens, right? It's the end of the DCEU. They can basically do whatever they want. So we get like a Batman cameo or something, right? Something really cool like that? No. But similar to the ending of The Dark Knight Rises, there's a small table, someone sitting there eating. Orm eating his cheeseburger. He tries a bite, doesn't seem too impressed. Then he notices a cockroach, takes the cockroach, puts it on the sandwich, takes a bite, and all right, now I get these cheeseburger things. And that's the end.
That's just awful. How terrible. Oh no.
The DCEU ends with eating a cockroach sandwich.
So you're not allowed to eat steak, you have to eat boogs.
I'm not going to eat the bugs.
How glad are you that the DCEU is finally over? Tell me down in the comments. So what movie will I be reviewing next? I don't know. There's not a whole lot coming out in 2024. We'll see. Got some movies you really want to make sure I watch? Let me know down in the comments. And I can tell you whether or not any of the characters say tight butt.
That's dead on.
Wow. Yeah, you nailed it.
You nailed it.
Boy,
I mean, like,
that you read home
point
with
that.
that.
It's over.
Get access to exclusive videos and become a producer at my Subscribe Star. Links in the description.